Welcome to the Leapfrog BI sample project video series. My name is Paul Felix, and in this video we're going to be focusing on the profile step of the Leapfrog BI workflow. So let's jump right in and get started. The first thing you need to do, if you haven't already done so, is to register. And by registering, you are creating an account with Leapfrog BI. That account can contain one or many projects. And each account also has one or more users. So after you create your project, you just want to log in. And we're ready to go. As soon as I move over to the Project tab, you'll see that a default project has been created for us. The first thing I want to do is to edit my project definition so that I have everything in place to build my project components. And to do that, I simply select the project that I'm going to be working with. I'll just go ahead and edit our default project. I'm going to give this a different name, call it our sample project. And the description, just call it a sample project again. I'm going to leave this project active. And in the target system, right now there's only one target system that is supported. It is the SQL Server 2008 R2, which is going to be using integration services as well as the relational engine. So I'm going to update this. I'm also going to go over to the project life cycles. It's important that we set the project life cycles before any connections are created, because that ensures that the process of creating those connections also has a placeholder for each of the different life cycles. We'll see this in a little more detail here shortly. So I'm going to edit this first life cycle that's already in place. I'm just going to call that my development life cycle, and for an abbreviation I'll call it dev development life cycle, something like that. Okay, I'm all set. Got 3 life cycles. They're in the order that I want them to be in, 1, 2, 3, just like I would do my migration path. I go back over to my project now. I'm all set. I'm ready to start building components. So the first thing I want to do is go to my components here, since we're really talking about the profiling step. I'm going to go to my stage component and create new. And the reason I did that is because the stage component is the component that actually accepts the profile. So I'm just going to quickly do this. We're not going to actually create this component, but if I select this first template here, we can see that this stage component actually is asking to have a profile uploaded to use as the source for the stage component. So during this video, we're going to actually be creating this profile that we're going to be using here. So I'm going to cancel out of this. We'll come back to that in the next video. So back to stage, create new. Each of these templates have, in the case of stage, each of the templates are based on some type of source. So the first template is using this SQL Server client, native client provider. And then there's a generic OLADB provider template. There's several Excel, and there's also a flat file template. So what you need to do is to download the link here that says file, and that will give you the package that you'll be using to create your profile. Let's just do this, and I think it'll make a lot of sense to just demonstrate it instead of explaining it. So we're going to be using a SQL Server source. I'm going to download the package that correlates with that type of source. I'm going to just save this package. One little trick here: if you're using integration, or if you're using Internet Explorer, it likes to try to call it XML because it detects the MIME type. In any case, give it the DTSX extension. And we have our file now. So now I'm going to move over to Business Intelligence Development Studio. I'll cancel out of this for now just to get a clean start here. I have a solution already in place there we're going to be working with, and I have a project also that contains all of my source packages. So I'm going to add an existing package. I'm going to navigate to my file system since that's where I have saved this package, and here it is. This is the package I just downloaded. So open that up and let's see what we have inside. Okay, so there's instructions in here. It's extremely simple as far as ETL packages goes. All we have is a single connection, which is the source connection, and then we have a data flow task. In the data flow task, we only have a source and a row count. So all we're going to be doing here, oops, cancel that. All we're going to be doing here is completing a couple steps so that we are pointing this package to the source that we want to use. The first thing I want to do is to set up my connection. So there's a source connection manager, or a source connection here in the connection manager. I'm just going to double click on that, and I'm going to fill this out so that it points to the source that I have available. And my server name is Ostex01, and my instance name is SS2008R2. So now I can select the actual database that I'm going to be using as my source, and we're going to be using this AdventureWorks replay database that's also available if you want to try to create this same project. As your testing lead for BI, you can download this replay database from the Getting Started video series forum. Okay, so now I have established my source connection. Next thing I want to do is to save the SQL statement that's going to be used to query my source. So let me move over now to Management Studio and show you what we're going to do here. I'm going to be working with this product table, and all I want to do really is to get all of the products that are, or all the records that are in this product table. So if I run this, we can see that it's just a simple table, a lot of columns in here that describe product primarily. But one thing I also want to do is I want to make sure that during future loads I don't have to continually pull in all products that are in this table. So I'm going to put in a filter here that allows me to define which records I'm going to be including. So I'm going to say modified date is greater than a certain date. When I do that, of course I'm going to get only the records that have a modified date that's greater than 2000 January 1 in this case. Alright, so I'm going to copy this, move back over to bids, and I'm going to go over to my SQL source here, variable, go to properties, and I'm going to go to the expression definition. So in this expression here, I'm going to just remove everything that came with the sample, and I'm going to drop in what I just copied from Management Studio. And I'm going to just say OK. Now, the parameters that are available here, I can name anything I want, and I know that I only want to have one parameter, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete all of these parameters, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm going to rename this I'll call it start date. The parameters are always going to be text. We're building a text string whenever we create a SQL statement, so it's going to be text. And I'm going to set the value of that variable to be my start date, 2001-01. And then I'm going to go back over to my SQL, the actual script that I have saved in this expression, and I'm going to update this so that it uses that start date variable. So I'm selecting my start date. I'm going to go ahead and close the quotes, and I'm concatenating here. I'm going to go find my start date variable and drop that in. I should be able to execute that, go down, look at the bottom of this, and I can see that once the expression was evaluated, I do have my date in here. One thing I want to point out is that you of course do need to have your quotes if they're required for the type of value that you're putting in there. You need to make sure that those quotes are part of your SQL statement. Now I could test this. I could just copy it, move back over here. It's going to be exactly the same as what I just copied over, executed, and it works fine. So I'm all set now. What I want to do is go into my data flow task, double click on my source component. It's going to tell me that it needs to be refreshed because it sees that there's new fields in here. So I'm going to say yes, go ahead and automatically fix that for me. And then I'm going to click the columns tab and take a quick look to make sure that my columns are actually listed in here. And if I want to, I can also click preview and I can see that I actually have my data in here. So great, I know we're in good shape here. Say OK to that. Then I'm going to go back over to my control flow and I'm going to actually execute this data flow task. It executed successfully. So I know now that what I've defined is a known good starting point. It's a good profile. So I'm going to save this task or this package, and I'm going to call it product demo. All right. So that's really it. We've now created the profile package that we're going to be using in our next step of the workflow, which is to create the stage components. Just as a recap, the profile is going to do a couple of things. It's going to be, of course, giving us the metadata that describes your source data. It's also going to be putting in any placeholders that need to be manipulated so that we can dynamically select the data that's going to be brought in. So we're done creating our profile. I'll see you in the next step, which is the staging step.